Hi, my name is Kais and I am 12 years old and I live in Montreal, Canada. Welcome to our Oboot Zoom session where me and my co-host Philip, who is also 12 from Montreal, will be interviewing our guest changemaker, Tom Greenwood. Tom is the founder of Whole Grain Digital, a web design agency based in London in the UK. He's also the creator of websitecarbon.com, a tool that calculates the amount of carbon emitted by websites, and the author of a book on sustainable web design. Tom's work links to several sustainable development goals, especially to goal number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and goal number 13, climate action. Philip and I will ask questions to Tom about his background, his journey, his work, his skills, and his impact. We hope that you will enjoy this session, and I'll now start with our first question to our guest. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for your work?
Sure. So my name is Tom Greenwood, and I run a web design agency called Whole Grain Digital. And I've been running that for 14 years with my wife, Vanita. And it's an agency based in London. We currently have a team of 17 people. And we design and build websites predominantly for purpose-led businesses and charities. And we have a big focus on sustainability. So trying to make digital services that are good for the environment, but also trying to run our own business in a way that is good for the environment too.
All right. So, what made you start what you're doing now?
Oh, so I guess when I was about your age, I started realizing that there were like environmental issues like climate change and so on, and I thought that this is something that really needs to be tackled for the future. And so when I went to university, I was studying product design, but I decided I'd try to focus my main studies in sustainability and how design could be used to design more sustainable, more environmentally friendly solutions for the world that we live in. And that really led to what I'm doing today, because when I decided to start my own business, I was looking at what type of products would we design as a design company, and I thought, well, actually, maybe we don't want to be designing physical things because they have to be dug out of the ground and then shipped across the world, and then they get thrown in a landfill site. Maybe we should just design digital products which don't have any of those impacts. And so that was what got me into the world of digital technology. And I later realized that digital technology also has an environmental impact, but I didn't realize that at the time, and that's how I got here.
All right. So, in any way, did COVID affect your work?
Yeah. So COVID was, obviously it's been very disruptive for everyone. We were very lucky because we're working in the field of digital technology. We were already quite used to using digital tools day to day in our work. A lot of our team were working remotely for a large proportion of their time already. We used to see each other every week face to face, but we also did a lot of work remotely. So we were used to that kind of way of doing things. So it was the main effect from a kind of human level was just the fact that we didn't see each other at all for a year. Now we're literally in the last couple of weeks starting to see each other face to face, which is nice. But we've been very lucky on a commercial level. COVID's meant that a lot of people need to move more and more services online. And so actually there's a lot more demand for services like ours to design and develop these services. So we've been super lucky in that respect.
All right. What are obstacles you have faced while working on how to make websites carbon neutral?
So, I think the first obstacle we faced was how do you work out what's the environmental impact of a website or any online service, because no one had really done that before. and we couldn't really find any information about how to do it. So we spent a long time a few years ago researching this, and we're doing some more research now to try to update that method of calculation. So that was a big obstacle. And then after we had figured that out, the next biggest obstacle is how do you make things environmentally friendly without losing any of the nice stuff that people want? How do you make sure the websites still look just as nice? How do you make sure that they're still just as fun, just as fast, just as easy to use? And some of those things were relatively easy, and some of those things were quite difficult, like making things look nice and be eco-friendly. Turns out it is completely possible, but it requires a lot more thinking.
How do you make websites green?
So the way you make them green is in three main ways. So the first way is you host them in a data center that is using renewable energy as its electricity supply, so that you're not powering the data center with fossil fuels. That's like a good start. The next thing is in design. You can identify the things in the design that are basically going to consume lots of energy. So it's like large files or things that are going to require computers to do a lot of work. And you can try to find design solutions that are just as appealing to the user, but don't consume as much electricity and don't have as big files. And then when you're actually writing the code, you can do a lot of things to just make your code smaller, basically getting rid of all the stuff that's not needed. Most websites, behind the scenes, there's loads and loads of code that doesn't do anything. Most people don't know that. There's a lot of stuff that is just there because somebody copied and pasted it from somewhere else and it doesn't do anything. So you can delete all of that stuff and compress it and make all of the code smaller so that it uses less energy.
What was it like when you first started the initial project?
When we first started the initial project for Website Carbon, it was it was very uncertain. We didn't know how we were going to work out the emissions of a website, and we didn't know whether they would be significant. We might have found out that actually they're so small that it's not even worth thinking about. And everybody we spoke to said, they're so small, don't even bother trying to work it out. So no one would help us try to work it out because they didn't think it was worth doing. So there was a lot of uncertainty at the beginning. But I think to do anything interesting, you have to venture into the unknown.
Okay, so was there an inspiration for this work?
Yes, so the inspiration came when we started looking at becoming certified as a B Corp as a business. And in the process of B Corp certification, you really need to look very seriously at like all aspects of your business, including your environmental impact in quite a lot of detail. And when we were looking at the assessment, there's a section on like how do you account for the carbon or the environmental impact of your products that you manufacture. And because we didn't manufacture physical products, we thought we would skip that section, which most companies like ours would skip that section. But it didn't feel like that made any sense. So that was the inspiration. We said, well, why are we skipping a whole section on the environmental impact of our products when we don't even know the environmental impact of our products? So that really made us think that we needed to go away and work that out for ourselves, even if it wasn't a requirement, we wanted to do it.
What was your initial idea for the project?
So the initial idea for the project was just to have a method of calculating the environmental footprint of a website that we could use ourselves in the projects that we do with our clients. And it was only later, once we worked that out, that we then thought that it would be great to put this online as a tool that other people could use to learn about the environmental impact of websites.
Okay. So is there a way to make video games green?
That's a great question. So yes, well, yes and no. So video games are increasingly like a big part of like the environmental impact. Sort of, if you go back a long way, like, you know, sort of 10 years or so, then most of the internet would have been what you would think of as conventional websites, and that most of the impact would have come from that. But as we look more to the future, the impact of websites will become a kind of smaller portion, and the bigger impacts will be computer games, cryptocurrencies, streaming videos online. So I guess the things that can be done to make video games more eco-friendly are the video game companies need to make sure that they're using data centers that are powered by renewable energy and not by fossil fuels. And then they need to design their games consoles to be like super energy efficient, to last a long time. So you don't have to buy a new console like every couple of years, but design consoles that can be like upgraded over time. And they can probably do things to mean that less data has to be sent like between you and your friends over the internet, and that actually most of the processing happens at home on the console.
How do you think your project will affect how the planet will be affected?
Well, I hope that it will mean that there'll be less energy wasted in digital products and services, and that will mean that well, ultimately it'll mean that less materials and less fossil fuels are consumed, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah. So what does your workplace look like normally?
Oh, our workplace. So at the moment, because of COVID, our workplace looks like home. So it looks like this. But our normal workplace in London is a shared workspace. It's quite fun actually. It's got like flicked paint, like colored paint all over the walls and all over the floor. And then it's got like all the seating is like block colors like green, blue, pink. It's quite fun, but it's in a really ancient building, so it's like really fun colors, but it's in what used to be a palace. So it's like quite a contrast.
Do you think there are other areas of how the virtual world works that can be turned to more green?
Which parts of the world? I didn't catch the full question.
Do you think there are other areas where the virtual world can be turned into more green?
Ah, I see. Yes. So I think one of the big areas is going to be cryptocurrencies. So at the moment, cryptocurrencies are consuming a huge amount of the world's electricity for no good reason. And they're far more energy intensive than normal money. So like if you go and spend money on a debit card or a credit card in a shop, that uses a little bit of electricity every time you buy something, but it's tiny amount compared to the amount used by cryptocurrency. So I think that cryptocurrencies will need to become much, much more energy efficient. And that's like an engineering problem that engineers are working on and trying to solve. And I think in video streaming, like Netflix and YouTube and all these fun things, the big thing they can do is like stop encouraging you to binge watch. So like don't always keep feeding you the next video automatically after you finish the last one.
All right. So, what do you think has like the biggest impact on the Earth, like carbon, like?
In life in general,
Yes, just in general.
in my personal life. Yeah, I think the biggest impact in my life is going to be electricity consumption. Wow, this is a really good question. I would say electricity consumption, even though I have solar panels on my roof, and even though I have a renewable energy supplier that like feeds electricity to my house. My house does use a lot of electricity because it's an old house, and we have electric heating, and we have an electric car. So, yeah, maybe electricity. Or alternatively, building work. Whenever we get repairs done on our house, I'm always horrified at like the amount of materials used, the amount of waste generated. That's something that frightens me a lot.
What are your opinions on new technological advancements for keeping a lot of things green now?
So I think there's a lot of new technological advancements that make things more efficient, and that's a good thing. But I think the problem is that they're always trying to make you buy a new thing. So in a lot of cases, it's not always necessarily good that we keep having to replace the old things with the new things, even though they're more energy efficient. I think actually sometimes just using less is better than always inventing something new.
All right, I'm out of questions. So, Philip, if you have any more, you can just continue.
I'm also out.
Perfect timing. Okay. Well, there is one last question, but this is normally the last question. Do you have any advice for people who want to do work like yours?
Yeah. So if you want to do work like ours, I always suggest just like having a go at designing and building things on the internet yourself. As long as you've got a computer of some kind, you can have a go at it with little or no cost. And ultimately, like it's the best way to learn is just to try doing things, try making things, and then show them to other people.
All right. So, thank you, Tom and Philip, for the great discussion and for all the things that we learned today. Thank you, Oboot, for listening to this interview. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can hear about upcoming sessions with other changemakers. Please also tell your friends about Oboot and share I cannot speak, and share our social media links with them. Thank you.